Justin, welcome to the show, man.
Glad to be here.
Dude, I got to say, man, it's with the internet, there's so much noise out there today. There's so many people that are putting out content. It's never ending stream of, podcasts and clips and things like that. And so it's funny when you hear somebody and you just tell like, oh, that person gets it. And, you see them all the time because I think truth is truth. And when people hear it, they know it. And so few people are willing to say what needs to be said these days. And I think one thing that I love about you is, you're not so worried about the outcome. You're just going to stand in your ground. You're going to say your truth, and people gravitate to that because so few people are willing to do it these days.
Yeah, it's very true. But you know what I actually think it is? I think most people, although they feel it and think it, want to say it, but they're not in a position to be able to say it. And I think that's what's really special about being able to get yourself in a position where you can say what you actually think. Put yourself in a position in your life where there are no repercussions, or if there are repercussions, you're willing to pay for them. And I think many, many people find themselves in a position where they so badly want to speak and they can't. So when they come across someone that does, they feel like they're speaking for them. And so that would be my goal, is to feel like I'm speaking for people that can't. I think that's really important, and it's really important to me. And I think that's what resonates with people, when they believe that you're speaking on their behalf.
Yeah.
And so,
well, and everybody, we all, want, and it's been more difficult than ever to find people to look up to. Who do you listen to? And so I think you are doing that. I think that, a lot of younger men, especially, I'm a men's coach. That's what I do with my day job. And, I coach almost 400 men, and they're looking. They want to find people that they can count on, that they can look up to, that they can trust, that whose opinions are their opinions, like you said. And so I think that is a valid point, that, it's not that the younger generation doesn't want to speak up. It's that they're not in a position. There's so much negative repercussion. And if you've never spoken up on the internet and had people come at you, if you're not ready for that, it will destroy you. Like,
absolutely.
If you're not ready for it, you do it one time and you're like, man, this ain't worth it. I'm not doing that again.
I actually think that's the ultimate test. If you go online and you make a video and you start to see the negative comments that come in, or the people that attack you for being who you are, I think that's the ultimate test to see whether you'll make it or not, because you have to withstand that storm. It's coming. You could be the Pope and still they'll find something to say about you negatively. The trolls will. But one thing I like to do? Every now and then, I'd say about once a month, I'll take a bad comment and I'll DM that person directly. I'm going to create bad comments now. And I'll reach out and say, hey, I see that you don't like me, or you're not a very big fan of mine. I just want you to know that I hope you're well. I hope you're killing it. No sweat from me. Just sending you love. And I'm telling you now, like 99 out of 100. In fact, I had it happen to me the other day. A guy said something like, you're a clown, or something like that. And I sent him a message like that. And about 3 or 4 texts later, he signed up to my school group that I just opened last week. And he's in my actual group. And so a lot of times those people are just hurting, man.
Yeah.
And I think it's our job, particularly, especially if we're strong and we're confident in what we're doing and confident in what we say and who we are, is to be graceful with those people. Understand that there's other people that don't have it quite as well as we do. And maybe they're just not on that part of their journey yet. I struggled for a long time. Now, I didn't hate on anybody online, but you just never know what a guy's going through, and maybe how you could turn their day around by loving them anyway and being graceful in that moment with them.
Well, yeah, and I remember when I was more insecure, but I was, trying to look confident, that's when I would go on and fight with people online, right? I remember when I was in that position. And so now when people come at you on, it's exactly what you said, though, is happy people aren't going on the internet and DMing strangers. So if you can have that level of empathy, and you have to detach yourself and go, this has nothing to do with me.
Right, 1,000%.
Yeah, and in real life, I don't know if this is your case, I'm sure it is the same, but 99.9% of the interactions I have in person are great. They're positive.
Every time.
It's very rare that you'll have a negative interaction in person. It's because people in person, they're still kind of a fan. They still kind of want to, there's a part of you that they want to be where you're at. And maybe they're mad at themselves that they aren't there yet. And so online it comes off as like they're upset, or they don't like, they call you a clown. But really, they're kind of reaching out. They're kind of trying to ask, hey, man, somebody help me here.
Attention's currency. So any attention on every level, there's gradient scales that they can go from disliking you to, well, let's say hating you, to slightly disliking you, to you start to grow on them, to liking you, and then becoming a true fan of yours. And I don't find myself like really spending a lot of time thinking about that outcome for myself.
Yeah.
But every now and then when I see somebody hurting, I know they're hurting because if they're talking shit about me, you know who we should really be worried about as influencers? The people that don't say anything at all. That's who we should be worried about. And to your point on what you said, I don't think it's just normal people out there that are hurting. There's a lot of influencers, and I hate the word, to be honest.
Yes, there's an even new word.
Influencers, people with big social media accounts,
Yeah.
they're hurting too because they're hating people left and right.
And you see that more and more now. It's just
More and more.
It's this thing that, for whatever reason, gets a lot of attention now.
Well,
and so people kind of get addicted to the negativity of it all.
Yeah, but you know what my problem with that is? Number one, you're also insecure. And number two, if you have to hate on somebody to become relevant, then you need to find something else to do or raise the standards of whatever your content is. And I don't say that to hate on them. I'm just saying that it's not the path. Because if you're pulling negativity onto the internet to grow your brand, what do you think your brand following is going to be?
Yeah.
It's going to be those types of people. My life is too good in real life to worry about some asshole talking shit to me on the internet.
Yeah.
Like, it's just too good, bro.
Yeah.
And so I take a lot of pride in being graceful with those people. And I think it served me well because holding hate on your back is heavy. I want to go with a light heart, love the people that love me. The ones that don't, they can not like me, but it's not going to change my reality. I built my reality. And there's not some dickhead on the internet that's ever going to change that. Or some individual that's just hurting that day.
Yeah. Well, and people are attracted more than ever to people that are unapologetically whoever they are because so few people are willing to do it. So somebody like yourself or the Tate brothers, right? They are people gravitate to them one way or another and to you one way or another because what they're seeing is this unapologetic person just being them and not necessarily caring what other people say about them. Obviously, they are sure of themselves. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to do what they do because so many people fall as soon as the attack comes for them. You see so many people in, actors are famous for this. They'll try to stand up for a second, or athletes, but the second they start getting a little bit of negative pushback, they completely flip their opinion. And it's every single time, it just makes you lose respect for them, right? And so I think that quality of just being unapologetically yourself is what attracts people to everything you're doing.
1,000%. I'll add something to that actor and athlete thing. I was walking with a girl through LA recently, and anytime I'm in public, people want to take photos.
Of course.
And what she said to me was, you know the difference between you and a pro athlete that plays for the Dodgers or like a movie star? He said, these people walk up to you and tell you that you changed their life. That's completely different from I saw you in a movie, or that's completely different from it's arrogant to act like you do, because it's like, first of all, it makes you feel very good about yourself. It makes you feel very cool. It makes you feel very appreciated in the work that you do, especially when most of the time, you can get 1,000 positive comments and see 5 negative ones. Those will be the ones you remember.
Yeah.
Just human nature wise, just neuroprogramming up here. You're looking for the negative. That's what sticks to you. You take the good ones for granted. But those interactions where somebody stops you and says, hey man, I was going through a breakup, or I was at a bad place in my business, or I needed to quit my job and I finally did. And it was because you helped me make that decision. Thank you. And there's not any better work you could do.
No, it's a different level of contribution that you get to do. I was speaking this morning to a group of real estate agents, and this was kind of the irony of like being, quote unquote, an influencer or a content creator, right? I'm speaking tomorrow in front of 5,000-6,000 people. Today, I go to this event and they screwed up which hotel it was at. So they were expecting 300 real estate agents, and they had 6 people there when I spoke. And I gave them everything I had to those 6 people. By the end of the talk, there was like 11, but it was kind of sad because this guy had a full buffet and everything. It was really set up. He just put the wrong hotel in there. And so, but I poured everything into them. And to your point, I had another appointment that was ending pretty much right after that one to do a podcast. I was on another podcast. And so I was intending to be done about 9:50. So I had 10 minutes to get to that podcast. But there was, of these 11 people that were there at the end of my talk, like 5 of them were sitting there with my book waiting for me to sign it and, get a picture. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to pour into these people. Like, I appreciate that. Like, they're going to read that book and it's going to change their life in some way. And so I ended up being 15 minutes late for that podcast. But even though there was only 11 people, it's like, that is, you never know. What I said in that room today might have changed one of their lives. And that's why I gave everything I had as if I had a room of 5,000 people in front of me.
1,000%. I don't really believe in karma itself, like in the very literal term. But what I do believe in is that if you go out into the world and you do kind things for people and you genuinely love people and you give yourself to them in a very genuine way, it's not karma that's going to make you have a better life. It's that inside your heart, you know you deserve and have good things coming. Mm-hmm. Most of the time when people are doing bad things, they know and expect to get that karma because they understand that they have it coming. Mm. They understand that they did that thing they shouldn't have done. And if something negative happens to them, they deserve it. Mm. Whereas I like to try to live my life from the place of, I've put so much into so many people and given them my time, and I've done the right thing even when it was hard, whether it's somebody stopping me on the street or a business deal or an employee or somebody I have just a generic relationship in. If I can feel good at the end of the day about how I treated that human being, then I can walk around, number one, with peace in my heart, but then with the expectation and lack of surprise that good things are happening for me because I have nothing inside of me telling me that something negative should come because I've done nothing to feel like I deserve it.
Yeah, you're expecting good things to happen instead of expecting bad things to happen.
It's like planting a bunch of seeds. Mm-hmm. Like you expect them to grow. And as long as you water them, they will.
Well, this is a little secret of life that people miss is if you plant a tree that you're never going to take fruit from, you're going to get fruit from a whole nother tree. And so plant those seeds every chance you get. We talked a little bit about people suffering, and I think it's such a fascinating concept, right? Like men in general, one of the things I love that you talk about, you do talk about, why it's hard to be a man in today's society, like some of the, difficulties that are out there facing men. Maybe you speak to that a little bit. What are a couple of those things that are just challenging, and why are men having, more challenges than ever?
Yeah, so a couple of reasons. The one main reason I see is that when we went off the gold standard, we went from a man being able to wake up, go work his ass off 40 hours a week, and be able to provide for a family. Women didn't really want to go into the workplace. It was a necessity that women went into the workplace because that man's hard work could no longer pay to provide for that family. So I think that's one major thing that happened is like the man's ability to completely take control and take charge and pay for, supporting his entire family went away. And I have nothing against women working. In fact, I'm a big proponent of women.
Yeah, you have an entire construction management team.
My whole team's women. So, they're very good. But by and largely, I think a lot of cases, most men, if you were to ask them, they would love nothing more than to make an abundance of income to be able to take care of their family and feel more masculine in that role. The second thing, with that being a situation where the normal guy cannot do that, paired with that, and I think even worse, is social media. Mm-hmm. Women marry a guy, they get their big day, right? But then they're still on social media. So they're comparing their husband against, a lot of times, a photoshopped, not as rich as he says, saying all the right things, camera crew, edits. They're creating this whole facade around him. And she's comparing her husband to him. And I think a lot of times when women see that again and again and again, they start to wonder what their other options are. And they start to take what that man is doing for them for granted. And in regards to young men that are not even approaching marriage, like a 22-year-old guy, he's competing against me. Mm-hmm. My inbox on Instagram proves that. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have a shot. He doesn't have a shot for another 8 years. And what I would tell him is to get to work because more than likely you're going to want to marry down anyway. But just the fact that so many men are even having trouble having sex at all.
I think Chris Williamson told me on our podcast we did a couple months ago, he said over 50% of men ages 18 to 25 have not asked a woman out in person in the last year.
1,000%.
It's a crazy stat.
And the world's changed a lot because of the way that a man can be perceived by approaching a woman. Mm-hmm. But I honestly believe this. You can take the same woman, have two different men say the same thing to said woman, and man A, she might react in disgust, call him cringe, call him creepy. Man B can say the exact same thing, and if she's interested, then he's charming.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's the case for social media in general. If somebody likes you, they can take the same things you said and make you a hero for it. Or they could call you a clown or cringe or whatever they want to call you. And I think a lot of men are facing that today. And so instead of walking up to that young woman and introducing himself, he doesn't want to face the rejection or the risk of being a creep. And so I think that's one of the things that are harder for young men today. Dating apps, just as bad. Instagram, just as bad. I think they say like 5-10% of men get 90% of the women on the dating apps.
Yeah.
And the reason that's such a problem is because we're guys. You know, you bring a 4 in here right now with a big butt or big boobs, bro, I'll bend her over that table right there. I don't care. Now she thinks that she's on my level, but I just did it because it was a random Tuesday and I got nothing to do.
Right.
And so now she thinks that she's up this hierarchy, and I hate to put numbers to it, but this is the way that people understand it. She thinks she's here when most of the time the guy that does that would never actually date her. But because there's so much access to so many men and so many women on such a large scale, it creates this kind of dissonance between where people should be, and especially like in kind of like the hierarchy of how the mating strategy works. And that becomes dangerous as well, because now you have girls that are probably not in the league of a guy like you or a guy like, let's say, Keaton or whoever. I'll leave me out of it. They think they're in that league because that guy slept with her. But the truth of the matter is he just got nothing to do on a Tuesday night. Sorry. It is what it is.
Yeah.
And now she won't give the normal guy a shot because she's been with the big boss. She's been with the successful guy. And it's a bunch of bullshit. You know, I think that, you know, if you get married, you should probably just get off of social media.
I actually totally agree.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm like, I'm going to give this everything I have for the next, whatever, 2, 5 or 10 years. But then me too, like by the time, like when I finally decide I'm going to settle down or whatever, I'm going to disappear. Like you're not going to see me, because if I'm truly going to be into that person and be fully committed to my marriage, I know how social media works. I know how Instagram works. I know when somebody likes your photo from 6 months ago, what they're trying to say. They're throwing a beacon out, you know?
Oh man, you open your phone, the girl likes you, right? And all it is her face, just because she likes every photo.
Right.
And she's like, okay, bro, are you going to...
That's another one.
That's their version in real life.
Totally.
That's their version of putting themselves in your space.
Yep.
You know?
Exactly.
They're like,
right.
I like your photos. Boom, 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 boom. If they're really, really hot and like have millions of followers, they might only like 3. That's enough.
Yeah.
Because even they understand their status. You know, and
well, and people,
that's the crazy thing about it.
Something that I've been studying a little bit is we used to believe that value was what you provide, or value is what you can bring to the table. Value is what you truly are. What is it special about you? Now people are more focused on attention, what's loudest instead of what's valuable. And so what's getting the most attention, a lot of the guys on social media, for example, or even the women on social media, it looks like that's what you should aspire to. But in reality, none of that stuff's valuable. That's not really what brings happiness and joy in life. And so there's this confusion of people, they don't even know what to aspire to. They don't know what to go for, because we're propping up what gets the most attention as opposed to what truly has value.
Right. And I think it's going to stay like that for quite a while. And I'll tell you where my heart actually breaks. My heart breaks for the young girl, 7th, 8th grade, 9th grade, high school. She is going to associate her value with followers like the rest of her classmates. But unfortunately for her, her value and her follower count is often tied to the amount of skin she shows on social media, which inversely hurts her with the ideal man she's
The
actually
type of guy
looking
she
for.
wants, yes.
Because the man that knows exactly what he wants and has very high standards, he's not going to put up with it.
Well, and you spoke about this, and Andrew speaks about this quite a bit, but you know, what makes that value for a woman especially is that not everyone can get her, that not everyone has access to see her in skimpier clothes, you know? And so women have been sold this lie that the more skin I show, the more attention I get, that means the more valuable I am.
Right.
And it's the exact opposite.
And unfortunately, those young ladies get lied to, because it doesn't mean that I won't go on a date with you. It simply means that I put you in the bucket that does not create a long-term relationship. And they believe, because you continue to see them, because they're stunningly beautiful. Now I'm talking about adult women, by the way. They believe because they're stunningly beautiful and you continue to see them, that you don't see what they're doing. So if I was with a girl and taking it very seriously, and she had her cleavage all over the internet, let's say, I directly look at that as marketing. Like, she must not be done looking, because she's still marketing to the world her assets. It seems they're still for sale. And so it's just food for thought for any young woman, which by the way, I have a huge heart for. That group I just started, there's women in it and I care about them. I have 3 sisters, you know, and, you know, I think women have it just as hard as men in a very inverse way.
Oh, I agree. Yeah,
in a very inverse way.
Even though I coach men, we talk about all the problems that men face today. Women's are just as big.
Just as big.
They are.
Right.
They have the exact same amount of issues.
Right. And so they're faced with things that we aren't faced with, and men are faced with things that they certainly are not faced with. And I think it's just a really huge misunderstanding right now. And it's going to take probably some kind of hard shift to change that.
What do you think? Well, what is the response? What's the answer to maybe try to, change the tide a little bit?
I think that we need to create a situation where the average man can do a lot better for himself. I talk a lot about blue collar workers, the people that actually make society work. If it were up to me and I had some kind of, let's say, political power, I would want to sit down, list out every job in the country, and put a real value to it. We live in a world today where a girl can shake her ass on OnlyFans and Instagram and make more money than the guy that built this house. It's inverted. It's backwards.
Yeah.
Even the money that influencers make, it's unreal. It is completely unreal. And then here we are with a world full of people that are building roads, handling trash, the mail, roofing, cleaning the sides.
And they're being told that they don't have value. They're not important. They're not getting propped up anywhere on
These are
social
the guys that
media.
make the world go around.
Oh, yeah.
No offense to the Instagram model, but that bimbo can't make it to the mall without a road or a car or a guy that built the mall itself, hung the steel, did the electrical, poured the concrete. And I don't even blame her. I actually blame us as a country. It's almost, in a way, there should be a certified payroll to, and there's certain projects, Bacon Davis projects in construction where they say how much you have to pay.
Sure.
But I think by and largely, we have our value of job description versus income way off. And I'm by no means a socialist. The market gives what it gives. But in a lot of these scenarios, it's so far out of balance, the common guy doesn't have a shot. And so what I see happening could get substantially worse as more and more women are willing to share a high value man. And I can tell you, as a person that exercises my options, that's a real thing. And I don't even have to lie about it.
Yeah.
In fact, they contribute and help. And it's not me bragging about it nor promoting it. I'm not. I'm just simply saying that if something doesn't change where the average guy can have a strong relationship and she can look up to him and be proud of him for the hard work that he did in the field all day, bringing back and pouring his life's energy into supporting that family, then it's going to be wrecked for quite a while.
Yeah. I know there's some, people that are close to me, and I think there's been some frustration because anytime we're in a room together, everyone wants to know what I'm up to, right? Because I travel a lot and I'm doing these cool things and I do podcasts with people like yourself. And I always have this feeling, like, who I look up to is like my brother-in-law who just grinds, works his ass off, takes care of my nieces and nephews, takes care of my sister, my brothers that go to work. That really is, for my whole life, I've looked up to these people. I have this guy, he's kind of my right-hand guy for my real estate team for 17 years now. And he's just as good as they come. That dude cares about me more than I care about me. And he grinds all day, every day behind the desk, making sure everything that I make a mess of gets put in order and gets taken care of. And that dude will never get a single award or a single recognition, and he doesn't need it. But I'm like, that is a man. And then he goes home to his 4 kids and his wife, and he supports them and he takes care of them. He has a calling in his church. He is the guy in the community. He puts together trips with the neighbors and shit. That's a man. That is like what makes America so amazing. And there has to be a way to kind of give more credit. I'm saying this from somebody that gets more credit than I deserve, that like we have to start somehow recognizing all those people in a way that is what becomes cool again, and that is what we aspire to, is becoming like that. Because if we keep aspiring, everybody wants to be a YouTube star, wants to be the next podcast super interviewer or whatever it might be. We just leave a gap in the people that really are getting the work done.
I completely agree. I believe there'll be a day, I hope for a day, where you cannot put out a course, you cannot create a brand without proving that you became a millionaire in that business.
Love
I had a
that.
deep conviction inside of me. I wanted to do YouTube in my mid-20s so bad. But I felt like an imposter because I was still struggling to build it. I'd make a bunch of money and then try to scale and lose it. I'd make it, lose it. I think I have it under control, thought I was a big boss, and then I'd lose it again, you know, and these things would happen over and over again. And I just, you know, finally let go of it. And I said, I'm going to make a commitment to not go online until I am liquid multimillionaire. Now, one thing that I think is very important for me to say on top of that, the higher I get up in the social media world, the broker I realize I am. Worth millions of dollars. I got 300 properties. I got huge construction companies. I make millions of dollars a year. But then I run into Dan Fleshman outside and he's like, yeah, we own a bank or whatever the hell they say, right? And so I think that that's the fair thing to say as well, especially as people that have influence. It's like, yes, I did really, really well. I'm a millionaire, not a billionaire. You know, I'm way more like you than you think I am. And I honestly believe that there's a bigger gap between 0 to $1 million for an individual than there is from 1 million to 10 and 10 to 20.
I agree.
I really believe that
Yeah.
because so many things in your life change. Like I continue to get wealthier and I'm proud of that because it's a game. But I can tell you, it doesn't change my life very much. A private jet is not that much better than commercial.
Yeah, they say a person that has $1 million or more net worth, they did these random surveys and they asked them if you could roll a dice and you either 10x your money or you lose it all and have to start at 0, how much of a multiple they'd have to get before they would take the roll.
Right.
And it was 7 times is where that hit, where people finally, the survey shifted that people would take it as a 7x, but at 5x, no, because they know how hard it is to go from 0 to $1 million. That's
1,000%.
much harder. Your life's going to change a lot more in that time frame than going from $1 million to 10 million or $1 million to 7 million or whatever it might be.
You know how I always explain it? I explain it like you're on a runway and you go to take off and they burn, I think a plane burns 60% of its fuel on a takeoff.
Oh, wow.
Or some it's some
Crazy
crazy number.
Yeah.
That might not be right,
Sure.
but it's close to that. And most of the effort from the plane is getting it off the ground. I look at that as the first few million. But then when you get to 30,000 feet, you're really just cruising. Your competencies are in place. A lot of your teams are in place. You begin to get some sort of status, and that completely changes everything because then employees are coming to you.
Yeah, opportunities, doors open for you. You didn't never deserve to be in the room. And
Deals
things
are
just
there,
happen.
and these things, they continue to happen. And so, like, even I'm in this place where it's like I'm watching my wealth compound, and I think to myself, how much easier it is to multiply wealth now than it was to even get myself in the position to watch it compound.
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens is most people try to get that plane off the ground. And even me, myself, you're duct taping the wings. You're trying to figure out, you're going sideways, you nosedive, you crash off the runway and bounce. And then you get up there and it almost, you feel this level of guilt because you're so trained and you're so used to work being painful.
Well, that's what, at the peak of my career, I literally shifted to do this other thing completely because I was kind of bored with it. I was a little bit addicted to the takeoff, you know, and to all that stuff.
And aren't we all? All entrepreneurs are.
And it's because it is more fun, right? It, like you said, it almost feels guilty when you're just like, this has never been easier.
Now it's like you just touch shit and it's like money. And the thing about that is, another reason it's so easy to do it is because of the position you're in. Yes. But then also, you don't have the downside risk of that business failing. Because if that business fails, you still have a nest egg of that first thing you built to generate that first million anyway.
Yep.
I tell people all the time, it's like, don't worry about making $1 million. Worry about creating a system that's going to spit you out millions of dollars a year. So, like, people get so caught up in like making this certain amount of money and they want to hold on to it. I don't care about that. I care about the system that's going to get me there. And I think that's the hardest part to build because you have to be able to have the staff to get that plane off the ground, the engine, the engineering, everything that you have to engineer around that business to create that new life for yourself. That is the thing that's going to get you there. It's not going to be this one side hustle where you hit like a little lick. It's just not. Ludacris is getting ready.
He is. We're
Yeah.
doing this.
Luda!
We're doing this podcast at Keaton's house, and they're having Ludacris playing here at this house tonight. So if
Yeah,
you
no
guys hear a
big
little
deal.
background, that's just a little
Just
that's just a little
Ludacris
soundtrack
coming.
for our podcast here for you.
Yeah.
But so you said something. I didn't want to. You kind of glossed over it, but you said something that intrigued me earlier in the podcast. You said most men want to probably marry down. Go into that a little bit. Why? How come you feel that
I
way?
don't recall saying that. However, I will say this. That's probably true. It's probably true. I think that it's not that they want to marry down. It's that you want there to be a dissonance between you and her. She needs to look at you like a superhero. And a lot of people say you need to be equal partners and all this other bullshit. But statistics show that doesn't work. If you can't be the superhero, and it's not that you're saving her. A lot of people try to twist this like there's something wrong with her and you have some God complex or something like that. No. No man wants a woman that he can't save from a castle and a dragon.
It's true.
The most genuine, beautiful part about loving somebody is feeling like you made their life better because of the work that you put in. You swept them away. There's a song by the Dixie Chicks called Cowboy Take Me Away.
Yeah.
Yeah. That in a girl's honest heart, in her primal heart, every girl wants the superhero to come save her and whisk her away.
Well, it's every fantasy fairy tale they ever told.
Every
That's what
romance
happened.
novel,
Yes.
everything. And so these women read this for a reason. And they're telling women today, which is another very difficult thing that women are facing, particularly as they get to what Rollo calls the wall, which is, they have the 19 to 27 or 26 range where it's like the party years.
Yeah, that's their
And-
prime years.
But then, unfortunately for women, and another unfair thing about nature for women is they're on the clock at 27. They're like, okay, I need to have kids or I'm not. And a lot of women, mostly in my opinion, because the way the dynamics are set up now, they have to turn their head to that primal urge to have children and become a bad bitch instead. And I believe that's mostly because they don't have a man in their life that they feel like could be the superhero and create that dissonance between them in order to make that a reality.
They're trying to create it almost for themselves because they know they want it and they're not
Yeah.
getting it.
I call them phantom penises. Now, if you're a high status enough dude, and I've had this happen myself, I'll walk into a meeting,
Yeah.
girl have a hell of one of those, right? She'll be a bad bitch, tell me about her company, tell me she made 6 figures last year, and I'll hold back from like giggling and telling her that's cute and, congratulate her and everything. But by the end of the date, by the end of the interaction, that soft side comes out, and they tell you the truth. They have to have this hard shell on. And I'm not saying this because women are less. I'm simply saying that although men and women are equal in their importance to the world, they're important in completely different categories. And I think it's a shame that women are being asked to be a female version of a man. Because
they've been sold this lie that they've all bought into.
1000%.
That's not equality.
Right.
Equality is a woman is her best and a man is his best, and they're in their role correctly where they create the most value. And a woman, like you said it, you can have the woman with the most masculine shell on, but when she really breaks it down,
cracks, bro.
She just wants a guy to be that for her so she can be in her beauty and her feminine and be able to flow.
And I think what makes society so hard right now is that expectation, especially over the last 10 years of that young lady, has risen to the moon. Have you heard the 6 sixes?
No.
So I think it's 6 months from the last relationship, 6-pack abs, 6-inch dick, 6-figure income, and
6 foot,
and then 6 foot tall and a 600 horsepower car. Now, great to be in those categories, right? However, when you have a gamut of women across the board that have, let's use 6 foot tall. There's something called the female delusion calculator. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, I've seen it. They ask girls their non-negotiables,
Yeah,
and
they're
they put it into
non-negotiables.
the calculator, and it's
Yeah, and they're like,
oh, congrats, 1 out of 13,000 guys fits your role.
0.1111%. And look, it doesn't behoove me to sit here and brag about me hitting certain statistics or you hitting some of these certain statistics. I'm talking about normal, good people with good hearts that want to have a relationship or a family or children, they want to contribute to society, we've set up a scenario where that's next to impossible for them.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about the man, I'm talking about the woman. Because the woman, whether she actually feels that way or not, or she's getting pressured into that or not. And I think pressure from the world is actually one of the major indicators. She wants to love the normal guy. Somewhere in her, it agitates her. No, she can't, she's almost not allowed to, even if she wanted to, because there's always this shiny syndrome thing in her way that the guy from 2 towns over that has an Instagram, let's say he's got 10,000 followers because he's a fitness dude, you know, or she has this vision of this guy. And then there's this guy over here, he has an insurance company. He lives 3 towns over, but he likes her photos or DMs her every now and then. He just wants to sleep with her. But you understand what I'm saying? It's like, even the guy with no followers, she almost can't give him the time of day, you know? And I think that's more of a pressure and in a socio-economic thing where women are competing. I think that, you know, men compete.
Yeah.
And they girl flex on other women.
100%.
Look, he took me on this vacation, or he took me here and did this. And
Well, they'll even to the point where I was watching an interview with a bunch of, you know, women that were kind of in the dating world, and they said that they will absolutely, when they meet a man, stalk the last couple exes that he had to see what trips he took her on, because they're comparing it to what this guy's going to do.
they want to know how
you
much he loves her.
Yeah.
Right. Well, newsflash, whoopee, I'm just going to go where I have business. So you can get on the plane or not. And I think that's a major thing that men miss. You need to be on your mission.
Yeah.
I don't chase women. I don't teach pickup. I talk about intersexual dynamics because it gets brought to me a lot. It's very tied to masculinity because I want to see the guys win, but I also want to see the women win. But you'll never hear me talking about this is what you should do to get women. In fact, my pickup line is just introducing myself. It's horrible because I believe so much that if you become that guy, women will come to you. I believe in gravity. I believe in absorbing women through who you are, and you're going this way and they just jump in front of you. Chasing women, I almost think about as 2 magnets that you try to put together that repel one another. You should always be trying to become the man that women want.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to up the quality of woman in your life, you have to become a better quality of man. That's it. I mean, you're going to attract in whatever you are, and it's where people get frustrated is when they're very ambitious but they're lazy, right? Those 2 things don't go very well together. So those guys get super, super depressed about their situation with women. But it's like at the end of the day, you just ask yourself a question. Why would a woman date you? Like, what caliber of woman would want to be with you? And if you can't be real about that and honest about that, because any guy that has made himself the asset, if you have, you know, a great life and you do provide and you do create safety, both emotionally, physically, and financially, then it's going to be pretty easy to attract women into your life. Now, you're going to have to decide at what level you want to find one and just one or whatever else it is. But women are going to be accessible to you. I think I was going to ask you a question earlier, kind of about like, you know, why are so many men not dating, or, you know, especially the younger generation. I see, you know, people that I've coached or that have come to me that are in their early 20s, and it seems like they're a little bit clueless to this point that you're making, that like, guys, all you have to do, look, you're not going to be able to compete with Justin. You're not going to be able to compete with the guy that can fly her to Dubai, but you've got to start working on yourself to improve yourself every single day, because the more you become that asset, the more women are going to look at your potential. And the second you have the potential to be what they dream of having, then they're attracted. They'll be attracted to the potential. You don't have to already be there, but as a 21-year-old, 19-year-old, whatever that might be, you do have to have the potential in their eyes of being that for them.
100%. You're completely right about that. And at that age, I know that you're full of testosterone and your mind kind of works in one direction, but if you could focus that on becoming the man that you want to become, you're absolutely right. Women will see that and they will get in your way. There's no need to chase women. There's truly not. I don't think at any level there's any need to chase women. If all you do is focus on the man you become, women are going to be the least of your worries.
You have an interesting relationship with Andrew Tate. I think it's something that people always talk to you about, I'm sure.
Who's Andrew Tate?
He's a guy that was on the
Real
internet.
famous
and
guy.
then, I think he went to prison or something.
Super smart. Handsome. That son of a bitch. Yeah, I know him.
Well, what's kind of been cool or fun is to watch people not know what to make of this guy, right?
Yeah.
And you too. I think you guys are very similar this way. But people just don't know what to make of it. And I love watching it because, again, a person that's tapped in can recognize truth when he hears it. And people don't like that. And so people will try to do anything they can to tear those people down. You've kind of had an inside view of kind of, who that person really is. And I think I just would love to hear your opinion of like something that you've learned that people wouldn't know by having friends like that are so sure and confident in themselves and unapologetically who they are and constantly doing the work to better themselves. That's one thing I love about Andrew Tate is he's constantly obsessed with becoming a better version of himself, and he's not afraid to share those wins publicly.
No, I think that the way that Andrew goes about it is a beautiful way to go about it. I think he goes about it two ways. One is motivational, and one he pisses people off. So he can go from, hey, you could have this life that you want, to, hey, you fucking brokey. Are you tired of being a little bitch yet? And different men, and I think people don't understand this, especially very soft people, that sometimes men respond better to things that will make them angry versus things that will pull them up.
Well, I had a guy that I'm coaching right now. He sent me a text literally today when I was at the gym, and he was like making all these excuses for why he can't continue on in the program. And I said, dude, when are you going to choose yourself? You're just full of excuses. And that's what I said. And he came back. He's like, hey man, can we talk? I do want to do this. I need your help. Right. But it was like, I had to hit him in a way. I said, dude, you're just full of excuses. When is enough enough? When are you going to actually choose yourself? And to your point, men need to be talked to a different way sometimes to motivate them differently.
Right. And I think he does a really good job of encapsulating all of those things. I think he touches all of those particular points. I don't really touch calling people broken shit as much. Like, it doesn't feel as good on my heart than I'm assuming it feels to him.
Sure.
But he also knows the importance of that trigger. And I know that trigger's out there. So I don't personally feel the need to do it. I look at us and I truly believe he looks at us as a team. A lot. I think for that reason, he covers that base, and I might cover some of the stuff that, I often say my ideal version of a man is someone that can hold a baby and slit a throat in the same day. But what I'm really getting at is there can be a compassionate side to masculinity.
Yeah.
Andrew probably won't talk on that as much, but I can tell you he's wonderful in person.
Yeah.
Tristan has his own attributes and things that he brings. Actually, probably one of the wisest guys I know. Just super hyper intelligent guy, but has a big heart, and he's very good with people as well. He's very, very good with people. Andrew's a little colder. He's a little slower to befriend somebody, which makes him a lot more valuable. He's more scarce. I think he knows that. He's like stupid intelligent
Keeps
himself.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what's funny about people that, anytime you blow up like that on the internet, you're so intelligent to be able to pull that off, to be able to do that.
Right.
There's a level of intelligence and social intelligence, just, understanding social dynamics and people and, attraction, all those different things that is just otherworldly. And if,
1,000%.
You don't get that without it.
And I think you have to have all of those different things. Somebody said something to me the other day. They said for a guy of your status and level to be able to go on podcasts and get asked about Andrew every time and not have an issue with it, which I genuinely do not.
Sure.
I love I love him. Like, I love both of them. Like, we're like this. You could ask me about him the whole podcast. I'm not insecure about that, and I think that's something special that I bring to it that maybe some people wouldn't be able to handle. Feeling like they were sitting in his shadow or something like that. I fucking love that guy, bro.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. It's like so many people wouldn't be okay with that.
I know who the fuck I am.
I remember when Charlie Murphy, did you remember the Chappelle show when Charlie Murphy would go on, and I went and listened to his stand-up one time, and he's like, because he'd always be like, Charlie Murphy, and he's like, the way they would say it was all crazy, and he's like, people come up to me every day and they say Charlie Murphy, and he goes, people ask me, does that bother you? And he goes, well, it sure as hell beats Eddie Murphy's brother all day long.
Yeah,
you know, but like most
1000%.
people would never be okay with that. But it's
Yeah.
true. It's like when you are secure in yourself and you want your buddies to be propped up at all times.
All times.
And you have to pay attention. This is one of the things I've learned about friendships, man. You really got to pay attention to how people's energy is when you get propped up and they're not.
I don't mean to cut you off, but it's an honor to do that for my friends.
Yeah, I love that.
Loyalty has nothing to do with extrinsic. Loyalty is inside you. You knowing that you're loyal to that guy. You knowing that you're one of few men on the planet that can stand inside his fire and be his friend like that. So for me, I take that loyalty very personally because it's not so, it is about Andrew and T, but it's really about me doing what I know I want to do as a person that is vowed to ride with them to the end. Yeah,
most people, they'll, allow people to talk negatively when you're not there, but then they'll kiss your ass to your face.
Right.
And what a good friend does is if you're not there, he has
Talks
your
good
back
about
to the
you.
end and to your face, he'll tell you what you're doing wrong.
Words we can't say. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to see the best advice you have for young men and then the best advice you have for young women to navigate this crazy ass world that we live in. The book I just came out with, it's called Be One. It comes from the Marcus Aurelius quote, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one. And then the subtitle is How to Be a Healthy Man in Toxic Times. We really live in these weird toxic times like we talked about earlier with social media. So what's your best advice to young men? Because it's a lot of the people that look up to you and are following you. And then what's your best advice for young women that as well?
Yeah, great question. So for young men, you have to understand and accept that life is going to be very, very hard, but that should make you excited. Because if you can dedicate yourself to doing the work that it takes to separate yourself from everyone else, you have a very unfair advantage on the other side.
It's beautiful.
You have an abundance of choice. You have complete freedom in your life. You can say what you mean, not go around it in a certain way. You can live your own truth. For young women, don't buy into the things that society is telling you need to do. Understand that the things you do today could cost you the man you're looking for tomorrow. And I'm not downing you for having a business or an OnlyFans account or a big Instagram with you in a bikini. Just take into consideration if that's not actually where your heart is, then you can get it another way and find yourself in a position in getting what you actually probably want if you're honest. And that's a good relationship with somebody you really look up to and call your hero at the end of the day.
Yeah.
The guy that you want to have as children. Consider it, at least.
I think anytime you're trying to get that outside validation, you're doing something that's going to cost you down the line.
Right. And I think that the most important thing about that for young women is that a man that meets you after you've not done some of those things, not because you didn't know, because you chose to go against the grain, you chose to think for yourself, you chose not to get pressured into something, he'll respect you. Mm-hmm. And respect equals love in both directions. So stay true to yourself. Don't get pressured into being somebody you don't want to be because it could cost you everything that you actually want. That's what I would tell a young girl.
Dude, Justin, thank you so much for your time, man.
I
Excited
appreciate it, man.
to party tonight and to speak tomorrow and just get to know you some more. So thank you again.
All right, man. I'm glad we did it.
Thanks.